Whoa, this kind of looks like a Salvador Dali painting. Well, anyway, back to it. Let's take this mess and maybe get rid of it. Select it and backspace. There you go, done. Let's open up some more tools to just have a quick look at. Actually, we have an eraser tool here. We don't have anything to erase, but the eraser tool is there. And besides that, we have all sorts of color tools. Now we have an eyedropper tool to pick colors. And let's just put something down here to give you an example of. We'll put that down there. We'll also give it a fill. And there you go. We take our color picker tool. We go over to the fill we want and click on it. And it then in turn saves that color for us, and we can use it in other elements. This is a gradient tool. We want to click on this, click on the gradient tool, and from the gradient properties we can go into the layer and the object, do a double click, and there we go. Here's our object one, color, light blue. If we bring that down to over here, we can insert custom colors, and we can also do things like, get out of here, there, insert the gradient, and you'll see how it goes from a white to a black. Gradient tool, very, very good. Taking a quick look at some of the other tools here, we have the object sprayer tool, like you want to spray some objects. We have a slicer tool, the hand and the zoom tool. So the hand, we can move the artboard all around. Properties over here, properties up here. Now let's take a look at some of these that might be beneficial. We're able to save all our work from this area here and pay special attention to the export. Now, if I want to take this out of its format of Illustrator and let's say export it into something else, I can simply just go to the export and do that right here. Let's go pick out where we want to go. We're going to go to our workflow video work. We can keep that file name, or we can maybe call it something else like example 1. And from here, we have all sorts of different choices. Save as type. Now, right now, it's defaulting to an AutoCAD drawing, which, no, we definitely don't want an AutoCAD drawing. Let's go with something like a JPEG. Okay, and we can actually go through a couple of these really quick. We have JPEGs. We also have a PSD, which is a Photoshop file. You can export this right out as a Photoshop file. You can open it up in Photoshop then. Or, my favorite, the PNG, which is a fireworks.png file, and of course you can export that out as a PNG. And in fact, I'm going to do that right now. Instead of a JPEG, let's go PNG, let's go export. It's going to bring up our PNG options. Screen 72 ppi, that is your resolution. We can leave that. Anti-aliasing, type, hinted, we can also leave that. Background color preview, well, it's just giving us a little preview of our box with the gradient. Go OK, export it out. Good stuff. How do we know that? We minus this. Let's go back into our folder of where our files reside. Oh, there it is right there. Example 1. Open it. There, it's in the picture viewer. Now, let's open up Fireworks really quick. Because this is a PNG, I guess in theory, we should just be able to take this, drag it out, drop it. Oh, and there you go. Excellent. Now, seeing as that we're on the topic of exporting things, let's take this and say we want to print it. And let's do a setup for printing capabilities. Now, if we go into File, and then from File, we're going to go down to print. It's going to bring up its print settings here, and we have custom print, Adobe PostScript file, device independent. Now here we have all its attributes with what we're going to be up against as far as printing goes, because as you know, 300 DPI is about what we want for a minimum in printing, and that would be dots per square inch, pixels per square inch, and of course the 300 part means they're completely packed in and your resolution is going to be great. So from these printing settings, you can actually we can take care of the marks and the bleed areas. Now, when printing, you want to keep in mind with your artboard, you want a bleed area, because a bleed area of where it's not going to be printed, because a printer never goes 100% to either side. There's always that 5% that a printer stops at a piece of paper, and your bleed area, everything outside that won't be printed. Go into your outputs and you can have a look into these. That's also going to help you. Graphics, quality of graphics, your color management. It's going to let you set your colors and what you're going to send out for colors to print. Advanced settings, summary settings. When you're done all that, just click save or done, and your print settings will be set within that. Let's take a look at the settings that we have for this document, and we will also need to run down the other settings. Let's go back from the artboard, all the artboard settings. Also pay attention to preset custom, because within this you have all sorts of other settings that might come in very handy. From there, we go back down into File, Document Setup. And within our document setups, we're using points, okay? Which we can base these on inches, millimeters, centimeters, or pixels. Points is fine, and we can leave that. But if, let's say, we were working on something else of a much larger scale, we can just go right into inches. Okay, and then we're talked about the bleed area right here. Grid size, small, medium, large. Your grid size, your grid colors. We have a light grid right now, and we can always change that if we'd like to make it darker, lighter. And out of that area, let's go down into the file information area, where we have other settings. Now with the file information, this is probably where you're going to want to customize it, especially if you're working on an award-winning logo of some type. Let's have a quick rundown here of what we've done so far. Okay, developing symbols, which I've shown you over here, is the symbols tool. Plus you can use the pen and make your own symbols. From there, we've discussed printing. Remember, by default, resolution is 72. You're going to want to set that to 300 or higher for best quality printing. And we also have saving and exporting, which we covered that. Let's just save this out as just a Photoshop file. We're going to export it. We're going to put it into our folder over here. We're going to name it Photo Logo. And we can just click on the option for Photoshop PSD, export. And we'll just keep its settings as is, export, okay, and that is done. And you can see it, of course, right there is the Photoshop file. We're going to take a look at a few other things here. Back to the layers panel. If you want to create a new layer, over here is the new layers button, which will create a new layer, and you can put things you'd like on there. Let's just do some text here and go text. Okay, and that's going to be created right there on the new layer that we created. Can we name it? Sure, we'll call it text 1. And there it is, right there on our layers panel. We also want to look at some things along the lines of symbols. Now, symbols in the symbols library, you can import, you can make them and export all sorts of things, but these are pre-made symbols. You just take it, drag it, drop it, boom. Oh, there's a flower to go on top of our text. And while we're down there, we can check out the gradient. So if, let's say, we select our box here, it's going to bring up the properties for our gradient. And we said it goes from white to black. You can change that over here with the little pegs. That, if I double click, it brings up its properties, and I can change that from, let's say, red into black. I can also just click over here anywhere, and it's going to double click right there, add a new peg, which I can incorporate into those gradients. And this one in particular, well, let's turn that to blue, and then we have a red to blue into black. Now from here, we can explore the brushes tool. And if we want to just go and grab a brush right now, we can look at all the sorts of different types of brushes we can get from this, and strokes, by bringing up its art brush options and all its properties that it consists of to get different strokes and different brushes. And there's a million billion types of brushes out there, whether it's a sponge brush or a little fine modeling brush, but you can find brush options within these. So from the brushes, we can go on to other areas. Swatches and color swatches. Well, these are going to be things like this that you can drag out onto the stage, which you can see are big, huge vector patterns. You can import, export these, make these, and those reside within the swatches. Now, while selected, I'm going to backspace out of this and delete these. Actually, I'll show you how to delete from the layers panel. If you click on the object, you can fold up the folder, because if you delete this, yes, it's going to delete everything within that layer. Those would be sublayers containing content. And if you go down here, you can see it turns into an arrow where you can adjust your panes here. And we can go through your navigation, your information with X, Y, Z's, width and heights, transform properties. Of course, you have your middle, your corners, all your transformation properties. Alignment, this is always fun. Of course, you click that. We're going to align it to an object. Well, let's distribute it to, from over here, we can align it to, let's say, the flower. We take the flower here, and we shift both of them, and when we align to the object, we click on the middle, and they will in turn align in the middle. If we wanted to align them so the flower is over the text, then we click on the vertical alignment. And there you go. You have that aligned. The alignment tool, extremely important tool. And carrying on up here, okay, we've covered these areas. So let's go up into some of this where we have the edit. Right here, you're going to notice the undo align. Okay, so you've got your undos up here. That's always great within the edits. And we can click on that flower, edit, cut, and even from edit, paste. Okay, and you can also paste in front, paste in back, or paste in place, which will put it back to where it was It's made a copy of it, obviously. And from there, we can do all sorts of different things in the editing, including spell checking, which is kind of great. Let's take a look at the objects, and well, we're able to transform them, move them, rotate, scale them is always good. We can scale it right within the scale window. Or you can do scaling like this. If you're going to scale something and it's like this, always remember to grab it by a corner and press Shift and then scale it, and it will scale it perfectly in size. And then that way, you're not only maintaining the size, but if you're scaling other things, you don't want to put it out of perspective with different sizes of height and width, or they kind of look stretchy and don't look right. So just remember the corner and shift up and down. So we've had a rundown of the tools, the import, the export, along with we talked about printing. Coming up, we're going to get into the logo design of things, I think on a much deeper scale. I'll be showing you new things, tips, tricks, and I think we're going to get into some really heavy design in the next section.